Good, isn't it?
How was Shavuot?
This is very nice. That was yours.
It was very nice here. 1 second. Yeah, okay. Okay. Here we go. We are on 20b. We mentioned this disqualification of Ikor, where literally Ikor means torn. Sounds like the signs of the pipes of the animal are dislodged at a place. So we discussed if that disqualification is only if the slaughtering of a bird is biblical or if it's rabbinic. Now we're up to 6-7 lines into 20b, and it says, Amar Ravina, Amar Li Ravin Bar Kisi. Says Ravina in the name of Ravin Bar Kisi, Ravin Bar Yecheskel, that which Ravin Bar Yecheskel said, that Ein Ikor Simanim Ba'of, that by a bird, this disqualification of Ikor, where the pipes are torn, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's that the pipes are torn or they're dislodged, or maybe that's the same thing. That was, he said, Ravina says in the name of Ravin, that was only said by Malika. But by Shrita, you would have this disqualification. So we're limiting this idea that this disqualification called Ikor doesn't apply. That's only when it comes to Malika. But when it comes to the actual Shrita, it would apply. Yeah. So now, the Ha'amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, Amar Shmuel, but Rabbi Yirmiyah said in the name of Shmuel, Kol HaKasher B'Shrita, Kinegdo Ba'oref, Kasher B'Malika, that anything which is good for Shrita, so corresponding to that, it's good by Malika as well. So, Basel. So, but if it's not good by Shrita, it would not be good by Malika. So we say, you're right, Hu Pliga, meaning that there's a machlokas over here, there's a debate. Does this disqualification, which applies by Malika, which does not apply to Malika, and does apply to Shrita, so that is only the opinion of Ravin in the name of Ravin Bar Yecheskel. But according to Shmuel, they go together. And if there would be a disqualification of Ikor by Shrita, it would apply by Malika, and we wouldn't split. So basically, two opinions. If this disqualification called Ikor applies by the bird, by Malika or not. Okay. Amar Zeiri says, if you have, I think he's talking about the bird or the animal, or both. I think an animal. An animal. Yeah. Amar Zeiri Nishra, so Mifarekes, Vero Basim Anavela. Mifarekes is the back of it's the neck bone. So Zeiri says if the neck bone breaks and majority of the meat that's there comes off too, so then that would render the animal a nevela. So Mifarekes is the neck bone. You have to have a lot of the meat with it. Then that's going to render it a nevela, and therefore it's going to cause impurity. Even if it's what's the word, convulsing? Even if it's moving around afterwards, but still we view it as dead, and therefore it gives off impurity. And any shrita that you do after the neck bone with a lot of the meat is severed is not going to help you because the animal is considered halachically dead, even if it's still convulsing somewhat. Amar of Chista of Anan Nami Tanina. We taught the same thing. It says malak besakin. If you do malika with a knife, so really that's a disqualification. Malika is only with the fingernail. Malak besakin mitame begadim abesabliya. If you would cut with a knife the bird that's being brought as a sacrifice, which is supposed to be done with a fingernail, if you do it with a knife, it will cause impurity. It will cause impurity. We consider it a nevela. Now, the amrish treifa havya, and if you'll tell me that really cutting the animal with a knife does not render it a nevela, but rather it renders it a treifa, so then, according to that, that would mean that basically, milikasa zui shchitasa, that the malika zui shchitasa, and therefore tahani leisakin letahara midei nevela. If you would cut the animal, one second. If you say that cutting the animal, the animal and breaking the back of the neck would render it a treifa and not a nevela, I mean, it's just something which causes a fatal wound, but not a nevela. So then, if you go with that logic, so what would happen? Then you would say that milikasa zuhi shchitasa. 1 second. Right, so if cutting the back of the neck does not render it an nevela, renders it a treifa, so then cutting the bird with a knife instead of doing malika should also be considered a shrita and would render it a treifa. A treifa means it's a shrita, it just has a fatal wound. Now, if that's true, so then tahani lasakin l'tahara midei nevela. Let the knife cutting of the bird, which malika should be done to it, let that be valid. But we know that that's not true. We know that when you cut the bird, it becomes a nevela. But if breaking the back of the neck renders the animal only a treifa, so if you break the back of the neck and then let's say you shecht it afterwards, so you shechted an animal with a fatal wound. So you cut the back of the neck, it's shaking around. The question is it now dead or not dead? If you say it's not dead, it just is fatally wounded, and then you slaughtered it, so then that should apply when you cut the bird instead of the fingernail. Instead of rendering it a nevela, because you killed it without shchita, rather you should say that it's just a fatal wound, it's a treifa. So therefore you have to say that that this Mishnah that says that malika with a knife causes impurity is a support that cutting the back that back of the neck, that neck bone, the mefarekes, is going to be rendering the animal a nevela. To that the Gemara says not so fast. Why? Because Amri Hasam Mishum Delav Shchita Hiklal says over there when it comes to malika, if you use the knife, so that's not considered a shchita at all, because instead of a fingernail, you're using a knife. Therefore, it renders the animal a nevela. Versus in our case, you are using a knife like you're supposed to, just you're starting from the back of the neck instead of the front of the animal. So there we have a question. And now that you cut the back of the neck, how do you view the animal? Is it alive or is it dead? Is it a nevela or not? On that, he said that it's going to be a nevela. But you can't bring me a proof from a case of malika, which involves a fingernail, and you instead use a knife. That's for sure not good. Our case is you're supposed to use a knife, and you use the knife. You just started from the back of the animal. You cut through the back, and then you got to the two pipes. So the question is that a good shchita? It's just the animal happens to be a treifa now, and it won't cause impurity? Or no, you view it like you killed the animal, and now you're shechting a killed animal. Okay. Here it gets a little nitty gritty. I'm going to tell like a video or something. But my timer, what's the reason that going from the back of the neck is, and then slaughtering afterwards is not going to be considered a good shchita? Now we just said because you killed the animal, it's an nevela, no? Right. So then why are we asking what the?
Oh, he's talking about Malika now.
Oh, back to Malika. Okay, that makes sense. So why by
Malika with a knife is not.
why Malika with a knife is not good? Okay. Why Malika with a knife is not good? So Rav Huna Amar mipnei shehu machlin. Malika with a knife in jet. Meaning from the back of the neck, because so one opinion is mipnei shehu machlin, which literally means that the knife becomes concealed. So once the back neck bone is broken, so then the knife is going to go under a bone, which is called hachlada. It's concealed, and because the bone is not a straight bone anymore, and therefore somehow cutting while the knife is concealed is what?
Kind of the knife burrows.
So the fact that the bone is broken and now the knife is more concealed under the bone, and then doing a shechita from there, that's considered tearing as opposed to nicely slaughtering. Yeah. Okay.
Because he presses the knife down and doesn't move it side to side. Yeah. So it's
just a pressing of the knife and not moving it side to side. Okay. The other opinion says mipnei Rav Huna Amar mipnei Rav Amar mipnei shu doris, because once the neck is broken, so no, this one's pressing.
Because you burrow, it's kind of sticking the knife underneath, so it's not a clean motion. It's
so one is sticking the knife underneath; it's concealed, and one is you're just pressing. That's doris. Doris means to trample, to stomp on, and you're not moving it back and forth. So now, my time doris. The one who said the problem is when the knife is concealed, so that kind of slaughtering is not good. Why did he not say that you're like trampling, you're pushing instead of cutting? Kasavar molech umevi b'malika kasher, because he holds that if you do a back and forth motion by malika, that's going to be valid, and therefore he said that you couldn't. He couldn't say that you push and press down because.
Huna maintains that moving one's nail back and forth is valid for Malika. So when there's Malika, when you pinch, seems to say that moving the nail back and forth, kind of like a knife, is valid.
So just like he held by pushing is invalid, he held pushing in your fingernail would still be valid. So he couldn't say the problem is that you're pushing with a knife, because pushing with a nail, he held was fine. But the opinion that held that it's like you're pushing instead of slaughtering nicely. My time why didn't he have this issue of the knife being concealed and then it's more of a tearing than a slaughtering? What's the case of chalada? What exactly is the case of the knife going under the bone? Hadra bikare batim dimechasya. But hacha hamigalia. He held the problem of challah was when the knife is fully concealed. Somehow you put the knife and it's under the bone and it's fully concealed. Such a slaughtering is what we mean when we say challah is invalid. But in this case, even though the bone doesn't go all the way because you broke the back of the bone, but you still see the knife when you're cutting it. Even though it's under the bone, it's not fully revealed, but partly revealed, and therefore that's not enough to be an invalidation of hachlada. Okay, so now Amar Rava, Kashali, Rava says, this that Zeiri taught us that if you break the back of the bone and you take most of the flesh with it, the animal is considered an nevela. If you want to ask a difficulty on him, it's as follows. Hakashali. The problem is v'chi mesa omedu molek says v'chi mesa omedu molek that by a bird. So by a bird, when you're going to break the back of the neck, so the bird, as long as one of its pipes is severed, so it dies. So how exactly So what's the question? So
no, yeah, that's his questioning whether he can perform malika on a corpse. Zairi says an animal dies as soon as its neck bone
right.
and most of the flesh is severed. Hence, malika has always been performed on a bird that is already dead.
Meaning every malika you need to have two signs, two pipes being cut through. If one pipe is cut through, we assume the animal's dead already. Mm-hmm. So how do you ever do the malika? If the back of the neck doesn't kill the animal, okay, very good. There's no problem. But if once you break that back of the neck, it does kill the animal, by the time you get to the second pipe, so then it's already dead. Once it's dead, you can do malika. Abaye says, by the olas of it needs two signs. And yet, how could you cut through the second one? Once you cut through the first one, it's dead already. So Amrlay, no. Hassam, the reason why you have to cut through the second pipe is because there's another mitzvah by the olas of the fully consumed bird offering that you have to fully sever the head. So really, you cut the first pipe to kill the animal, and the second pipe in order to fulfill the mitzvah of severing the head from the rest of the body. L'kayim b'mitzvah havdalah. So if that's true, so we should say or nami. We should say that the skin
also be severed.
Yeah, the skin should also be severed. Why don't we sever the skin? If you would sever the skin, you could separate easier the head from the rest of the body. And yet we don't say that. Ihachi or nami. So we say, no, whatever prevents a valid slaughtering is going to prevent the mitzvah of separation. Whatever does not prevent a valid slaughtering does not prevent the mitzvah of separation. So the skin is not something which you need for a valid slaughtering. You might end up cutting through it, but you don't need that. If you can, all you need is the two pipes. So too by the mitzvah of separation, it's not going to prevent it either. It's not going to be a preventative, and therefore you don't have to cut the skin. So says the Gemara, "V'hamiyut simanim l'Rabbanan," according to the Rabbanan that we're going to see later on at the bottom of the next page. The Rabbanan later on are going to have a machlokas with Rabbi Dovid and Rabbi Shimon. And do you need to have all two pipes of the bird or only a majority? So the hamiyut siman l'Rabbanan delo ma'akev b'shchita ma'akev b'avdala, meaning as long as you have the majority by a regular animal, the majority of the pipes are cut through. So we go after the majority, and it's a valid shchita. But yet by a bird, the Rabbanan hold that you need to cut all of the signs. So you see that it's very different shchita from the bird. So you can't tell me whatever prevents one will prevent the other, because cutting the entire trachea and esophagus is not something which is necessary for the slaughtering. As long as you cut the majority, it's good. And yet we see, according to the Rabbanan, you have to cut all of them by a bird. I think it's gonna be the Ola Sa'of. Yeah. So by regular bird, we'll see. Okay. So that's a question. Ella Ema, you're right. Amend the brisa. Kol sheyeshnam b'shchita, yeshnam b'havdala. Whatever you require by shchita, you're going to require by havdala, by the ola sa'ov, that needs to be fully severed. The kol she'ena b'shchita, ena b'havdala, and whatever is not by shchita will not be by havdala. But it's not that anything which doesn't prevent shchita will not prevent havdala, separation. That's not true. According to the Rabbanan, it's just saying that whatever you find by shchita, you'll find by the separation of the bird, and whatever you don't find by shchita, you won't find by the separation of the bird. Next page, we call Malcolm Kasha. At the end of the day, how's this working? By the time you get to the second pipe of the bird, it's already dead. Rava says, Ema, v'chein hu osa. So say, similarly, v'chein hu osa, chotech shidra, u nifarekes, below rov basar. What it means to say is that really that Zairi said That's what Erie said?
Mm.
Is that you're cutting the back of the neck without the meat. Without the meat, so then it's not considered then it's not considered.
Cuts the spinal cord and the neck bone without the greater part of the flesh that's on the neck bone, and then he cuts the pipes. It doesn't say.
1 second. He asked the question: if you cut the back of the neck, it dies right away. So how do you ever do malika? So Amar the answer must be v'cheinu osa kotech shidra mefarekes below Rav Basar. But by malika, you're going to do the back of the neck, but not with the majority of the meat. And therefore, by the time you get to the second pipe, it's still alive. So the question was, when you cut the first pipe, it dies, no?
Yes, he cuts the neck bone without severing the rest of the flesh upon it. The animal still considered living. The flesh at the back of the neck consists of muscle and ligaments that form the supporting structure of the vertebral column.
Oh, meaning we answered why malika you have to have the second pipe, because you need a special mitzvah of havdalah to separate the animal. The question is, though, according to Zeiri, every time you break the back of the neck, the animal dies, then you're doing always malika on a dead animal. To that we say that the way you do malika is you do without the flesh. Without the flesh, we don't view the animal as dead. Zeiri only said that the neck is broken with most of the flesh. Then it's going to be considered a dead animal. However, if you do malika, when you do malika and you sever the back of the neck, that backbone, without most of the flesh, then that's not going to be considered killing the animal. And therefore, it's not a question on Zeiri. Ki Solik, when Rabbi Zer went up to Eretz Yisrael, Eshkechel Rabbi Ami, he found Rabbi Ami, the Yosef Kamar Lo Hashmaitzo. He went and he said the following teaching: Amar Levichi Mesa Omid B'Molek. How do you do malika? You're going to break the neck; it's going to be dead. So that's what Rav Ami was saying. So Ishtomem Kisha Chada. Sounds like Rav Zera was. Rav Zera asked Rav Ami this, and Rav Ami was silent, and he was thinking of how to answer him. So Amar Le Ema Kachu Osa Chodok Shidra Mefarekes Below Rav Basar. Same answer. You're right. It was a good question, but you don't take away most of the flesh. You cut the back of the neck. You break the back of the neck without removing most of the flesh. So therefore, it's not considered dead yet. Therefore, when you do malika, so then it's going to be valid. Tanya Nami Hachi. Similarly, a Brisa states, Ketzan Mokin Chatas Of Kotek Shidrum Afarekas Below Rav Basar. How you do malika on a bird sin offering? You chotek shidra, you break the spine umefarekes and that neck bone below Rav Basar without the majority of the meat. Until you get either the esophagus or the trachea. When you get to one of the pipes, you can just end up cutting one of them. Rubo, or the majority of it. And take most of the flesh with it, and that'll be a valid malika. That's by a chatas ha'of, by a bird sin offering. Uba ola, you have to do two, because it has to be fully severed. Got to remove the head from the body. Uba ola shnayim. Roshan. Either two or the majority of two. Okay, so now we're asking money. If it's the rabbis, we're going to see later on, ha'amri shnayim, dafka, they need two full pipes to be cut through, not the majority. Not the majority. And if it's Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon, Hamarov, Shnayim, he always needs the majority. He doesn't need the full two pipes. So, who's the price of going like? It says Shnayim, two, or the majority. Well, which one is it? It can't be either or, because the one who requires majority doesn't require the entire pipe. And the one that requires the entire pipe doesn't require the majority. So who are you going like? So we say, Ema Shnaim L'Rabbanan. Say it means two for the Rabbanan and Rosh Shnaim L'Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Shimon. Say when the Brisa said both of these options, it was saying It was staying, parv. It was either 2 full signs according to the rabbis, or majority of 2 signs of the 2 pipes according to Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon. Or another answer, alternatively, maybe the Bryce is going like Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, who says you have to have the majority. Why does the Bryce mention you have to do the whole thing? It was saying you have to do 2, majority of 2 that looks like 2. Meaning you have to do it in a way that it's very visible that the majority has been cut. So as opposed to, exactly 51%, but you can't tell the majority has been cut, even Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, who says you need the majority, is going to hold that you have to have a visible majority to make sure that, everyone notices that the majority has been cut. Okay. A good Stefanski video on this. I saw yesterday. It was very funny. But the guy doing a back massage and smashed the guy's back, and the guy had to go to the hospital. And then he was declared dead. And then they turned on the hospital alarm because it was too much. The hospital had to run away. So then the guy that broke the back was a Cohen, so he put himself in a plastic bag and rolled away. Anyway, so I'm reading over Shmuel. Nishbra mefarekes v'rov basar ima metame ba'ohel. Let's say a person's mifarekas, their neck bone, and a lot of their meat, a lot of their flesh by that bone is broken. Halacha is metame ba'ohel, even though the person is I don't know if he's breathing, but he's convulsing, he's shaking, he's so to speak. What's the word? Convulsing? No,
Convulsing.
Yeah, convulsing or convulsing. Well, English helpers. Jerking. Okay. And he's jerking around. So either way, once that's broken, so we consider, so if you're in a tented area, let's say, and so then right away there's going to be impurity because we view him as dead right away. Says V'im Tomar Osamai said to Eli, we had a situation with Eli that it was mifarekes below rov basar have, that it was he broke that bone without a lot of the flesh, and it was considered we called him dead, and it would have caused impurity, and there was no requirement of majority of the flesh with it. So we say no zakena shiny. No, he was old. When you're old, so then if just that bone breaks, person's considered dead. If you're not old, so then you need to have that bone plus the majority of the flesh with it. Now, when he found out that the iron was taken, he fell from upon his chair, Acharonis backwards. He broke that part of his neck, the neck bone, Vayamas, and he died. He was old, he was heavy, but the point was that he just as he broke the bone, it doesn't say anything about the meat, the flesh of the bone coming off. Amr Shmuel Bar Nachmani, Amr Yochanan, Karu Kidag. So this is going on a person. Yeah. Karu Kidag, a person gets cut and killed like a fish. I think that means it vertically, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So such a is that's metame ba'ohel. Whoa, what was that? Is that the noise that's made when you cut all the way down? Wow. Okay. Steve has never experienced this. Amr, in all the years in the security team, he never saw such a thing. So, Amr of Shmuel Bar Yitzchak Umi Gabo, but it has to be from the back. So, cut vertically from the back. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Amr Shmuel, the other way, widthwise. If you cut an animal widthwise, Asa Gistra Nevela. Gistra is you're cutting the animal into two, basically. So this fan scan video that some guy's a construction wheel, very sharp. He lets go of it and it goes, and as the cow's walking, cuts right through the cow. And the cow keeps walking two ends, one on the bus and one into a butcher shop. So yeah, it's very funny. So it's like kosher television. That's like. So yeah. So Amar Shmuel Asa Gisher Nevela. If an animal is cut widthwise, so then that would render it a nevela. Here I need a picture. I'm not sure exactly. Amar Rabbi Lazar Nital Hayerech v'Cholal Shala. If the thigh of the animal v'Cholal Shala, that's a nevela. Cholal Shala is its.
Is discernible. Yes, I don't know how you do it without discerning the cavity.
You remove the thigh and you discern the cavity that's there.
You see that there's
the cavity, the part where the two bones, where it connects, right? The thigh connects to the rest of the body.
Oh, okay. Basically, it's dislocated. I mean, it's a little more than dislocated, but.
So let's see. Heichidami chalal shala.
The body of the thigh and its flesh will remove all the way up to the side, attached into the body. No skin or flesh remain that cover the cavity left by the missing limb. So it's kind of just
the whole thing.
Yanked out, yeah.
Heichidami chalal shala. What's the example of its opening, meaning the thigh, its cavity? Amarava kol shiravutza venires chasera. So anything which, when the animal is, whatever it is, sitting down, or you could see that there's a hole there. You could see that it's missing a limb. Whenever it crouches, you could see it's missing a limb. So it says here, when an animal crouches on its legs cannot be seen. So if the cavity is discernible even when the animal is crouching, so then that proves that the entire limb was removed. Such a case, we consider the animal as a nevela. Okay. Tanan Hassam, it says in Oholos, right in the beginning, Hudzu Roshehem, the heads of the animal are sliced off, they're cut off. Even though they are jerking around, they're moving around, so then they are impure. That'd be a good word for this. Just jerking?
Yeah.
Convulsing jerking. Okay. So that causes impurity. Like a kiznav haltosh mefarchesses, just like the tail of a lizard is always moving around. So ma'yihutzu, this cutting off that it talks about, what exactly is the cutting off? Reish Lakish Amar Hudzu Mamish, cutting off the head. Rav Asi Amar Rebbe Mani Ki Havdalas Olas Ha'of, that it's like the separation of the Olas Ha'of, which is not a it's just detached. It's hanging. Yeah, it's hanging, exactly. It's not fully removed or hanging. So in what case there's a debate in how much of the head being severed and the animal still jerking around is considered dead to cause impurity. Fully removed or hanging off like an olas ha'of. So I'm going to review me on this already. A third time we're seeing this debate, and now we'll see it live soon. I'm going to review me on the Rabbanon. Is it like the separation of the olas ha'of according to the Rabbanon? And if that's true, so then below pligaso, then you and Reish Lakish don't have any debate, because you both agree that according to the Rabbanan, you need all the signs of the animal, all the entire trachea and esophagus to be severed. So too you agree that here you need the entire head to be severed. So if Reish Lakish says it has to be fully severed, and Rav Asi says it's like the olas ha'of, the consumed bird offering, according to the Rabbanan, which require fully severed pipes, then you guys are not in disagreement. Below pligaso. Oh, Dilma Kavdelas olas ha'of Rabbi Shimon. But if you say that Rav Asi says it's going to be like the olas ha'of, according to Rabbi Shimon, who needs the majority of the pipes. So then, upliga, so then you argue on Reish Lakish, who needs the entire head to be severed. As long as you have most of it severed, that's good to go. So that was the question. Amarle, I hold it's like the separation of the Olas Of according to Rabbi Shimon, who requires majority of the pipes to be cut through. So too I hold that if the majority of the animal's head is cut off, even though it's still jerking, it will cause impurity. And that, in fact, is a debate against Reish Lakish, who holds that you have to have the entire head severed. Ikad Amri Rabbi Shimon Lakish, Amar Hudzu Mamish. Some say that Rabbi Shimon Lakish said you have to have it fully cut off, which is what we have earlier. However, Rav Asi Amar Rabbi Mani Kevelas Of Rabbi Shimon Berov Shnayim. So we have here explicitly, instead of a question and answer, he just says the statement. He says that I hold, Rav Ad says I hold like Rabbi, who holds like Rabbi Shimon, meaning he has the animal, in order to cause impurity, has to be severed in the way that Rabbi Shimon requires the consumed bird offering to be severed, which is the majority of the pipes. So it's two different versions. The first version was a more of a Q&A format, and the second one, a question and answer. And the second one was just directly stated. Okay, now we're going to see, after coining them 3 times over, what is this debate, the Rabbanan and Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon. So, my Rabbanan, my Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, the Tanya says in a brisa, referring to, which animal are we? We're talking about the Olas Ha'of, the fully consumed bird offering in Vayikra. That's obligatory. And we say as follows. The Tanya, Es Hashem Yasa Ola, Kimishpat. You should do it according to the law. Which law? Kimishpat Chatas Behema. Like the law of a animal sin offering. So Ata Omer Kimishpat Chatas Behema, Eina Ela Kimishpat Chatas Of. We're talking about a consumed bird offering. You're telling me it has to be done the same, like according to the law. According to the law of what? According to the law of a animal sin offering, or according to the law of a animal bird offering, of a sin bird offering. So Kishu Omer, when it says in the verse in the beginning of Vayikra, V'yikrivu, so Chalak HaKasav Ben Chatas Of Olas Of, the pasuk itself stopped between the sin offering, the bird sin offering, and the Ola bird offering. So Umani Mekayim Kimishpat. So then what do I do with the word Kimishpat? Kimishpat Chatas Behema. It must be referring to, you have to do it like the animal. Like the animal. Which means that what? You have to cut majority? Oh, yeah, so right now. Ma Chatas Behema Eino Ba Ella, just like a Chatas Behema only comes Eino Ba Ella Mina Chulin. It can only come from Chulin and not from, let's say, the money of Meiser Sheni. So, and it's only by Yom. You don't bring the offering at nighttime, only in the daytime. Ooh, biyado hayaminis, and you only bring it with the with your right hand. So, af olas of enaba elamina chulin ubiyom ubiyado hayaminis. So, to the olas of only comes with the what's going to come from Chulin, from mundane money in the daytime with your right hand. Imala halim barov shanim, barov shnaim avkam barov shnaim. Just like an animal, the majority of the pipe severed is fine. So the olas ha'ov should be the same thing. Talmud Lomar umalak v'hiktir. You do malika and then you bring up on the altar. Ma haktara harosh ba'atzmo ba'aguf ba'atzmo. Just like haktara, when you put up on the altar, you have the head by itself and the body by itself. Af malika, you have harosh ba'atzmo v'haguf ba'atzmo. You have the head by itself and then the animal, meaning that both parts must be cut. Rabbi Shmuel Omer kimishva chatas ha'of. No, you do it like the sin offering, the bird sin offering. Ma chatas ha'of memul oref is the part that's facing the neck, meaning facing the head, facing the back of the head, which is the neck. Af olas ha'of mimul oref. Has to also be done. The olas ha'of is going to be from the part that's facing the head. Let's continue from here tomorrow.
יש כוח. Oops.